tonight, Destination Europe, no matter what the cost.
If it's worth my life, so I need to cross the fence and get to the UK.
The lorry drivers still on Britain's front line.
You sometimes fear for your life. Yeah, you just got to be careful where you park. You can lock your doors, but there's no stopping anybody putting your window through.
And as calls for action mount, the pressures back home.
It's an accident of geography that the Channel Tunnel and the Port of Dover are in Kent. This is a national problem and requires a national system to deal with it.
Good evening and welcome to the Tonight programme. Tens of thousands of people desperately seeking safety or a better life are on the move across Europe. It's the continent's biggest migration crisis since the Second World War, and it seems to be getting worse. Now the heartbreaking picture of a dead toddler washed up on a beach in the Mediterranean has increased pressure on Britain to do more. Ranveer Singh has been to France to meet the refugees who've set their sights on getting here, whatever the cost.
This is Calais, the place where this awful crisis is closest to our shores. I first came here exactly a year ago, and things seemed pretty desperate.
So how long have you been living here?
Almost 2 months ago.
Yes. Almost 2 months. Yeah. Hard, really hard. Yes. Hard life.
Yes.
Now I'm coming back, and things across Europe are much worse. The pictures and the stories are heartbreaking. A river of desperate humanity fighting its way through razor wire in Hungary, walking mile after mile through Greece, risking everything, including their lives, at sea and in lorries, in the hope they can reach a better place. And this week, the horror was crystallized by this photo. A policeman carrying the body of a little Syrian boy, 3-year-old Alan Kurdi, who drowned in the Mediterranean. Despite tragedy after tragedy, they keep on coming though, because they feel they have no choice. And this is where many have ended up. Welcome to the jungle.
What strikes me from being in Calais a year ago is just how many more people there are here, and actually with the greater population of migrants here, there's a bit more normality in the middle of all the chaos, if you like. You know, there's someone cooking pakoras at a little hut over there. There's a church, people praying. There seems to be, I suppose, a little bit more of a community here than I expected, even though there are lots of people who are very disparate and have come all alone from thousands of miles away. You just would not wish this on your worst enemy, frankly. It's terrible, it's chaotic, and it's not very pleasant.
There are thousands of people here, most living in tents in fields outside Calais. Life is really basic.
It's difficult. You have to fight to get everything. You know, a pair of shoes is a huge deal. A new jacket is a huge deal. A blanket is a huge deal. When they arrive, discovering who gives the tent and and finding somebody who actually has one can take several days. It's really difficult.
Some are economic migrants. Others say they are refugees fleeing from war in Syria and Afghanistan.
As you see, there's war in Afghanistan. Daesh also came to Afghanistan.
Islamic State.
Yeah. And Taliban is also everyday explosions, killings, attacks like this. That's why we ran away from Afghanistan.
This is Maroof. He says he's 16 and wants to be with his brother who lives in London. He says his family paid people smugglers to get him away from the violence in Afghanistan.
In Afghanistan, come to Pakistan, then Iran, then Turkish, then Greece, then from Greece to Hungary, then Israel, then Italy, then Paris to London.
But why do you want to get to London? Why not stay in Hungary or Italy or Greece? All these other countries are European countries.
Because there's no one, I know that. There's my family. Yeah, France is also good, but there is no our family.
The journey took 3 months. Now he, Zubair and many others face a daily struggle to survive and a nightly struggle to break into Britain.
We live in tents, we have lots of problems according to eating, wearing, drinking, anything else. Every night we are trying to go to England, every night, but we are not succeeding in this.
But people in England feel the country is full, there's no room for more people.
We had too much problems in our country. That's why the human right is the best in England. That's why we are going to England.
My friend,
Maruf gashed his foot on a wire fence during one attempt, but he says that's not going to stop him.
When will you try to get back on a lorry? When will you do that again? Tonight or another night?
I think tonight, but I have to go to tonight because tonight is very chance.
There's a big chance of making it to London tonight.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, 100% chance.
So in the camps, the daily routine struggle goes on. But are things changing politically?
Anyone who saw those pictures overnight couldn't help but be moved, and as a father I feel deeply moved by the sight of that young boy on a beach in Turkey. And Britain is a moral nation and we will fulfil our moral responsibilities.
But the reality on the ground is a harsh one.
We are not animals!
I've seen people who have been on the road for 10 years. They say, I'm like a football. People kick me from one country to another. They don't kill me, but Europe kicks me from one country to another. It's really difficult, really difficult. You know, you look at Germany and Sweden, they take so many people. You look at countries like Lebanon, how many Syrians do they take? Why aren't we taking more? We can certainly afford to all take more. Every country in Europe can afford to take more.
It's a humanitarian crisis that is costing European states billions. It's also causing splits among EU members, with some countries, Britain included, being accused of not doing enough. There's growing pressure both at home and abroad for us to take many more refugees. So how have we been doing? Last year, Britain granted asylum to around 10,000 people. France, Italy and Sweden all took in many more. Germany gave asylum to 40,000, and this year could end up taking in more than 800,000 refugees.
We need a way in which European countries across the EU each take a fair share of the refugees that are arriving here. At the moment, we are woefully short of a system that works like that. It encourages people to move on in disorganised and chaotic fashion, and also sometimes quite dangerous fashion.
Britain has already absorbed 300,000 economic migrants from within Europe, more than any other country in the EU. And the British government defends its record on helping asylum seekers. They told us that Britain has one of the largest refugee resettlement programmes in the EU. That it has pledged £900 million in humanitarian aid to the Middle East, second only to the US, and has granted asylum to almost 5,000 Syrians so far. But the Prime Minister also said this week that just taking in refugees was not the answer.
There isn't a solution to this problem that's simply about taking people. We need a comprehensive solution. A new government in Libya. We need to deal with the problems in Syria. I would say the people responsible for these terrible scenes we see, the people most responsible, are President Assad in Syria and the butchers of ISIL and the criminal gangs that are running this terrible trade in people.
But he has now signalled a shift in policy because of the current crisis. Britain, he says, will do its duty, having taken just 216 refugees directly from the Syrian region. He's now talking about accepting several thousand more.
We will continue with our approach of taking them from the refugee camps. This provides them with a more direct and safe route to the United Kingdom, rather than risking the hazardous journey which has tragically cost so many their lives.
Seemingly oblivious to any political power plays, the cat and mouse game in Calais continues, and it's a dangerous one. This summer, 11 migrants have died trying to get into the Eurotunnel or smuggle themselves on board lorries. And while it's not life or death for British lorry drivers, they certainly feel they're on the front line. They face big fines if migrants are found in their trucks.
First thing we do when we're checking over, just make sure your diesel cap's on, and then look up back of your trailer, make sure there's nobody hanging about on the back of your trailer.
We met Keith Fennell in a lorry park just south of Calais.
Always make sure all your pallets are in. We had once one of our drivers, he opened it up, there were 9 pallets missing, and there were 6 of them laid across the remaining 6 pallets. So you just make sure all your pallets are there and nobody's laid across top of them.
Keith drives fresh fruit and veg from France to Britain. He's had direct experience of getting caught out.
A the inspector came and knocked on my door and said, "You've just had to jump out the back of your trailer." And I said, "No, I haven't, it's all sealed and locked." And when we looked, the police caught them, and when they looked, they said that they'd been laid underneath on the air tanks, for the brake air tanks.
Because the men were not inside the truck, Keith wasn't fined, but one of his colleagues has been.
2 weeks ago, they found 12 immigrants in the back of one of our trucks, and they'd used power tools to cut the back doors, cut the handles off the back doors to cut the lock off, also they could slide the lock off. Got 12 in, shut the back doors again, put it all back together, and then when the driver walking out doing his checks, he shook his lock and it just came off in his hand.
British truckers are also concerned about some migrants getting increasingly desperate and dangerous.
It does bit of me at times because they just seem lawless. They don't seem to care about using them. You could confront them, try to get out of my trailer, and if they pull a knife out, what have you got? You've nothing.
Keith is on his way. The next bit of his route through Calais and onto the shuttle train is the most stressful part of his journey.
You start to get nervous as you swing off at motorway, and that's where you start to see them all. So you start to see them all hanging around and ready to make the move if it's queue in traffic.
Jim Parmenter runs a food import business. Last year he told the Tonight programme the problem of stowaways was costing his business tens of thousands of pounds.
First thing we see is damage to the cartons and to the tops of the pallets, but then we start to find things like bottles of urine, discarded food, discarded clothing. They basically leave rubbish behind really you wouldn't want to see, and that means that the load is contaminated and can't be used. It costs around £20,000 to £30,000 per lorry. That's the kind of values that we're talking about, which is a big problem for us economically.
Now he says things have got even harder.
Once or twice a week we're finding some sort of problem, whether it be actual migrants or signs that they've actually been on the vehicles. We have migrants on the axles underneath trailers, which is a very dangerous thing, and we have a guy fall off an axle and that was actually run over by the lorry and killed. And they'll hide anywhere they can to try and get into the country.
Back on the road near Calais, it's raining heavily, but trucker Keith is having a good run.
This is where you start to relax a little bit. 10 years ago, it wasn't too bad. You didn't really see them, but then last couple of years, they're just everywhere.
He's reached the terminal without any incidents.
She might pull us to the side, you never know.
Refrigerated trucks are generally more secure than soft-sided lorries, and Keith says he's often waved through without any security checks, just like now. He's safe and on his way home.
I do feel relieved, yeah. It's you just never know, because they want to get on your trailer, they will get on your trailer, but this time they haven't managed it.
Back in the jungle, as night falls, Zubair and Maruf join hundreds of others on their nightly search for a way into Britain. As we film, scores of migrants spread out by the roadside close to the heavily protected Eurotunnel entrance. It's a hazardous game of hide and seek. While police are briefly distracted, a small group makes a break for the terminal. Men and women emerge from the shadows. They're spotted and chased by officers. The women turn back, and as more security arrives, the men also give up and run for safety. The police have done what they can tonight, but in reality, they're hopelessly outnumbered. Those who are stopped are often simply sent back to the jungle, free to try again another day. If they do get through, Kent is where many of them end up. And this is a county that says it's really feeling the strain. If an unaccompanied child aged 16 or under turns up, the local council has a legal responsibility to look after them. In the past month, more than 100 have. And with more than 700 refugee children now in care, the council says it has no more beds or foster parents.
It's an accident of geography that the Channel Tunnel and the Port of Dover are in Kent, and Kent therefore takes a disproportionate share of the responsibility for looking after these young people. This is a national problem and requires a national system to deal with it.
Though others are now offering to take refugees, this council says it's having to spend over £5 million a year to cover the cost of looking after its refugees and migrants. Money it just can't afford.
We have a situation which is placing enormous pressure upon the service and upon staff. If the numbers just keep going up and up and up, the pressures and the difficulties of continuing to meet our responsibilities in a way that is satisfactory to everybody just gets more and more difficult.
The government has announced they're spending £19 million on security measures in Calais. And in the last couple of weeks, the number of lorry break-ins is down, but migrants are still trying. And it's still causing chaos for Eurostar passengers, with services even being cancelled this week. We returned to the jungle to see what effect the new security measures were having and to find out what happened to the young Afghans we'd met. There was no sign of Maruf or Zubair. But we meet their friend Adil. He's tried to break into Britain many times.
Well, I was trying to climb the fence, and over the fence there was a barbed wire. So I stuck on barbed wire because of the police. They are telling me stop, 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 and I couldn't listen to the police, and I was just trying to cross the fence.
He also tried his luck further up the coast in Dunkirk, but he didn't have enough money to pay the smugglers.
You need to pay me £2,000 and we will put you in a truck, in a freezer or chiller. Then there is a little bit chance that you can, cross the fence or cross the border by the train, or doesn't matter, by the ship. So I did not have that much money, and I don't have that much money to pay for the smuggler or for the agent to put me in a chiller, then lock the door up. And I want to try by my own self in here in Calais.
This week he was caught trying to stow away on a train. He's now in a French prison. Back in the UK, the Tonight team gets a call from Maruf. He's made it to London, and I'm keen to meet up with him. And so now we've discovered that he's actually arrived.
That's the only one I'd see.
So we're trying to find him just so... OK, all right, thank you. Thank you, see you soon, bye-bye. We arrange to meet in a cafe. Maruf turns up with a man he says is his brother, who he wants to translate for him. He says he finally got here by paying people smugglers.
And did they help you from Calais?
The person, they used to show him the way and how to get into the places that meant to. Plus, there was fences that they couldn't, they used to lift them up on their shoulder and pick them up on the highest ones. And that's how you need someone to do that, otherwise you won't do it by yourself.
And can I ask how much you paid?
چند میگه برش پیسه دادی؟ 1,200 pounds.
Gosh, that's a lot of money, isn't it? Where do you find the money from? Because in Calais, when we saw you, you didn't have very much.
Dad sending money to the person, whoever.
Your family in Afghanistan was sending money.
Yeah.
Maroof says he and 2 others found a lorry in the port area that was going to Dover. They cut through the canvas and hid inside.
He ripped the lorry and the side of the lorry, the top of the roof, and then he got inside. There was engine parts.
Car parts, engines.
Car parts and that.
The lorry was searched and his 2 friends were caught by the police, but they didn't find him.
He was looking through the holes, so when is he gonna reach his destination?
Yeah.
When the lorry got out the ship, he got happy that he's in England.
How did you get out of the lorry?
When he ripped the roof of the lorry and then he got out, the driver seen him, the guy chased him, he stopped running around from him. He got away.
Maroof called his brother who came to collect him. So now he's here, what are his plans?
We got him a solicitor. Hopefully he's gonna sort everything out for him, whatever he's entitled to. He's very happy to be here, but if he gets his passport, he goes, I'll be very, very happy. If not, I don't know.
Like many before him, Maroof has beaten the odds. He says he will now apply for asylum with the dream of going to college and starting a new life here with his brother. And back in the jungle, there are thousands more just like him. After the horrors many have been through just to get there, they feel they are the lucky ones. Their prize, Britain, is now just a short step away, and they are determined to get here.
If it's worth my life, so I need to cross the fence and get to the UK. One day I will cross this fence.
These fences cost an absolute fortune. It's clearly not working. We need to find solutions that work for everyone.
And public pressure is also mounting on the government. An online petition calling for the UK to accept more refugees passed the 100,000 signature threshold in just a matter of hours. And that means the issue could now be debated in Parliament. If you'd like more information on tonight's programme, please visit our website at itv.com/tonight. In the meantime, though, good evening and thanks for watching. Next week, warnings that noise could dramatically affect your property,
I consider that I'm virtually a prisoner in my own home until I die.
your life and your health.
Noise exposure causes an increase in your body's physiological arousal. So your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up.